in the face of climate change? How do we move our farmers from subsistence production to sustainable production that is both economically viable and environmentally friendly? And this is the discussion we are having tonight. Like I said, my name is Zena Bondati, and I'm leading this conversation, and if you can participate by keeping this conversation online, the hashtag is on the screen. So without much further ado, I'd like to invite welcome my panelists. We are in Kapsabet in Nandi County. It's a very cold night. It's raining, but we're trying to keep ourselves warm here. Hopefully we've had a cup of tea to keep us warm. To my immediate left is Moses Abukari, who is from the International Fund for Agricultural Development, abbreviated as IFAD, and he's the Regional Program Manager. Welcome, Moses. Next to him is Hamisi Williams, who is representing the Food and Agriculture Organization here at the Kenya office, the Deputy Country Representative. Welcome, Hamisi.
Thank you.
Hamisi's face is not a strange one. If you're in the agriculture space in Kenya, you've seen his face a lot. And next to him is our host tonight, Dr. Kiplimo Lagat, who's the County Executive Committee member for agriculture of this county, and he's also the chairman of the CEC Caucus on Agriculture. So he knows a lot about agriculture from the county's perspectives and what the counties are doing to end food security. And next to Dr. Kiplimo, we have Mary Cherono, who is a farmer from this county, and she'll be telling us about her experiences. And last but not least, by Maki Sanko, Deputy Country Director, World Food Program. Welcome, all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mary, labda ningependa kwanza na wewe. Wewe ni mkulima hapa. Umekuwa mkulima miaka ngapi?
Nimefanya kwa karibu miaka 20.
20? Na hiyo miaka 20 umekuwa mkulima, ni changamoto zipi umekuwa ukipitia?
Iko changamoto mingi. Saa zingine hali ya anga. Saa zingine pile inanyesha saa hizi. Ukifuka ng'ombe inataka mahali ya inyanyeshiwi, ikinyeshewa. Ikipika asubuhi kukamua, sio maziwa iwezi toka sawasawa.
Na unapanda, ni mimea aina gani unapanda? Mimea aina gani? Chakula aina gani unapanda?
Sasa chakula tu ni mahindi kidogo na mboga.
Na hiyo mahindi unapanda inakutosha kukidhi mahitaji yako na boma yako, ama lazima ununue chakula tena?
Mpaka ninunue.
Lazima ununue chakula. Okay. So we have some non-Kiswahili speakers of the panel, so I'll just quickly summarize what she said. She's been a farmer for 20 years. Some of the challenges she experiences include weather challenges, like now when it's raining, it gets so wet and the cows don't yield milk properly. She also plants some maize, but the crops she plants are not enough to feed her family, and sometimes she has to supplement by buying. And so that creates an excellent backdrop for us to begin. Excellent backdrop for us to begin. And I'd like to start with Moses here. Africa's farmers are mostly rural farmers, and many of them, their stories are similar to Mary's story. You work so hard, you till the land for 20 years, 30 years, but what you get out of it is still not enough to feed you, even though the constitution in your country gives you a right to food. Why is this?
Yeah, that's a great question. And as Mary had put it, there are so many Marys on the African continent who live in rural areas. The big problem is that we need to invest. So we need financing. And financing also takes into account what exactly technology that Mary, the likes of Mary, need. Like Riachi said, if there's flooding, we need to have varieties in terms of crops that can able to withstand the flood or changing weather condition, whether it's in dry area. Kenya, your land side is about, I think, arid 70%. So places in that area, if they have to farm, they also need like drought-tolerant varieties. But more importantly, that she also needs to get access to information. So if she has access to information, then she knows that this is the weather pattern is going to change, which kind of variety of crop that I need to grow. And upon that, she also need to make sure that she can produce and able to also, whatever she produces, she can able to store it. So we also need to invest in market infrastructure. So the bottom line is that financing is still low on the continent, and we need to double up. If you look at the Maputo Declaration, it requires each country to invest at least 10%. Yes. Kenya, around 4%. Yes. So that is already a big starting point.
We did hit 11%
once, but that was not enough. That is not enough. So the point is that, yeah, there is opportunity that is agriculture, the likes of Mary, there's serious underfunding, and we need to make sure that we have capital or resources to be able to invest in the likes of Mary so that they can be able to increase their production and increase their food availability to store and also generate income to feed her family.
Hamisi, putting in context Africa's situation and Kenya's food situation, what does right to food mean?
Thank you. Maybe actually, as you rightfully put it, putting into context. So let me take you through a journey that brings us here today. And then we come into what is happening in Africa today, and I will come to the issue of the right to food. So I work for Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, which is the UN agency that is leading the fight to defeat hunger. Therefore, the SDG 1 and poverty, zero hunger, SDG 2 squarely sits under the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations to lead those particular efforts. Now, having said that, this is how FAO, working together with the countries that are member countries, coined the World Food Day, which is celebrated every October 16th, sorry. And we have since last 3 years transformed that into a wider conversation beyond just the day's celebration into a World Food Forum, which is celebrated in Rome. As I'm talking to you, I'm glad that the PS in the Ministry of Agriculture is in Rome now, representing Kenya government and presenting the Kenya situation in Rome. They started that last Tuesday up to now. And what they're looking at is what are those areas and the gaps, and how can we bolster the investment in agriculture and to be able to touch the life of the poor of the poorest down there. And that is why the theme of this year is coined very well, the right to food for better life, leaving no one behind. So coming straight into the conversation, we want to ask ourselves, right to food, do we have it? If we don't have it, why? If we don't have it and why, then what can we do about it? And that conversation brings me to what we have in Kenya in our constitution, Article 43, which also says the right to food.
Yes.
So when I look
from hunger.
Exactly.
Yes.
And then when I looked at that article, and I said, then we are actually speaking the same language here. But look at it in Africa, as you say, with a population of over 1 billion. If you look at those who are facing acute hunger in Africa today, is way around 30 million people. But if you just extend that statistic to look at those who are at the possibility of facing it, they're not sure that they will really be able to put food, but eventually they do put something there. You are talking of a population that is above half that number of 1 billion. This is worrying trend. So the question is, why are we still there? Before the year 2019, the world had made very good progress in fighting hunger, reducing some of the numbers. The statistics were behaving well. But I must say, after COVID-19 and a number of other challenges that came, drought, right here at home, we faced a drought that we had never seen for the last 40 years. These reversed.
We had a locust invasion.
Exactly, locust invasion before that. You've been with me in the trenches, so you know this. These trends have reversed quite a number of gains that the country's made, and we are where we are today. So we are stuck with our small scalers, even large scalers are suffering. So the point is, what do we do in the face of the emergencies, the situations that are unpredictable, yet our population also keep increasing, the mouths that we feed are increasing and the demand is high. We must start looking at things like one, technology, to change the narrative. Technology. Two, we must start making information that are deliberate and based on data so that we know what we're telling people to do. And we must expand on passing the message from the laboratories to the farm extension. I'll leave it there for now.
Great. So, Dr. Kipimo, now I'd like you to pick up from what Mary said and what Moses said. Access to information. Access to information. Agriculture is a devolved function in Kenya now. But when you talk to a lot of farmers across the country, they still tell you, I've never seen an extension officer. I don't even know what they look like. No one has ever come to my farm to tell me this is happening or what. And you see, Mary there has been farming for 20 years. If she had access to information, would she still be food insecure?
Thank you. And first of all, to take this opportunity to welcome you to Nandi and Kapsabet, the headquarters of the county government of Nandi. And for those who are visiting for the first time, I hope you keep yourself warm because it's very cold. And we thank God because we are in our second season of food production. We are very lucky because some counties can only produce once a year. For us, we are able to produce in 2 seasons, and we are very happy. And we want to also appreciate the World Food Day being hosted here in Nandi. We want to thank the FAO and the national team for finding it possible that we could host this day here in Nandi to celebrate the hardworking farmers who have been toiling and to make sure that we have enough food. Somebody said that you actually need the farmer every day. Sometimes you need the doctor, sometimes you need architect, engineer, and what have you, but you need a farmer in the morning, noon, and in the evening. So when it comes to what you just mentioned about access to information, agriculture is devolved, and as counties, we've had a fair share of our challenges in terms of recruiting and our extension officers. And we are innovating around that because it's unlike in the past. Of course, the population also has been increasing. The public sector support of extension service has been shrinking. Yet we have a critical mass of our young people who have actually graduated with agriculture background. And we want to thank the president because when we shared some of these ideas, he took it up in his manifesto, and now we're recruiting up to 18,000 agripreneurs across the country. In Nandi alone, we've recruited about 220 agripreneurs. These are young people who have just graduated from various institutions of learning, and they are going to be working with farmers, not now as free extension service, but we want also to teach the farmer to appreciate the value of this information. Because when they don't attach also the value to it, they don't take it serious. But when the farmer begins to pay for it, they see the value. So we are doing this in partnership with the national government and other partners. We want to thank FAO has been supporting us. We did farmer registration. For the first time in this country, we've registered 6.4 million farmers. And we believe this information that we have, the young people, the agripreneurs, will be using this platform. And working closely with the county governments and the national government, we'll be able to target individual farmer and tailor the solutions that they need. If you are a coffee farmer, we actually send you an expert who is in coffee. If you are a dairy farmer, we send you somebody who's going to support you in that. So what happens is that you're able to tailor solutions for the farmers, as opposed to where you're just relying on one extension officer in one locality and serving so many farmers. So in this case, we are going to increase access to the service, and that means also transfer of information technology. We're also supporting a lot of farmer field schools, a lot of field days where farmers are able to learn from each other on the best practices. And we want to thank the partners who have been also supportive in this end.
So you don't use extension officers anymore?
No, we do have. Of course, they're still there. As a county government, we've employed, but I know a good number of other counties still have a challenge, but in Nandi, despite the challenge we had the other day, we've made sure we have, if it's WOWs, we have it in almost every ward, but it's not sufficient. Remember, you don't need just an extension officer. You still need, we used to have what we call frontline extension officers, the FAOs. That means you reduce the ratio of access. So if you have the proportion, for example, what we are targeting is to see every 50 farmers must have one extension officer. And it's not going to be very cheap. So the government alone cannot do it. We can only have a high-level technical advisor who can supervise the rest. But at that other level, we need probably somebody who is able to also have what we would actually look at as a mutual beneficial existence between the agripreneur and the farmer. The extension officer provides market information, provides input information to the farmer, but the farmer, on the other hand, must pay for that service of accessing that information.
And you've dispatched these people you just talked about, you've dispatched them across the country?
Currently, they are under incubation program.
Oh, so
we are now incubating them.
Because I was about to ask Mary if they've arrived on
No. But the same group of youth actually worked with our farmers. In fact, they are the one who helped us to register the farmers. So they even already know the kind of farmers they are going to be working with. And what we're telling them is that you must visit the farmer, assess the situation of the farmer, identify also a business opportunity in the farmer's homestead. What can you supply that farmer? That, for example, if you're an agripreneur, you know where you can sell the milk. But you are looking at the farmer, he's only getting 10 liters from a cow that has a potential to produce 20 liters. So you need to turn around that cow, produce more milk. Then what do? You work with a cooperative that will pay you a commission as a young person.
Okay. Okay, so we'll talk some more about Mary's experiences with some of these technologies you're talking about. But I'd just like to skip to Sanko and now put into perspective the meaning of food security. If I've had 1 meal a day, if I've had 2 meals a day, if I've had 3 meals a day, what's the difference with these 3 people?
Thanks. First, let me start by thanking people like Mary. Without Mary, I think we will not be having food in our house every day. So Mary, thank you so much for, with all what you're going through, you still go to the farm every day to ensure that all of us here have something to eat every day. Nobody wants to go to bed hungry. It's a reality that we all know, and we all know the pains of going to bed hungry. The cautions that you put to me, I mean, regardless of whether you have 1 meal a day, you have 2 meals a day, you have 3 meals a day, you have to make the choice of whether you're going to have 1 meal a day, 2 or 3 meals a day. The circumstance, the situation we find ourselves should not force anyone in the world that we live in to go for a meal a day or 2 meals a day, 3 meals a day. We need to create the environment wherein it's an individual's choice to decide whether they will only go for a meal a day, 2 meals, or 3 meals a day. I can give you a typical example. Thanks to the government of Kenya, they are actually doing school feeding program. For a child who goes to school, who walks 5 to 6 kilometers in the morning and arrives at school, 2 meals does not make much sense to that child. But that first meal that child receives upon arrival makes the change for the day for that specific child. Let me also talk a little bit about the food security situation in Kenya. Kenya is slowly progressing in terms of reducing the number of people who are food insecure in this country. And when we talk about food security, we're looking at 4 different levels. We have those who really, really need desperate help. And we have those who need help, but they can survive. And the ones I'm talking about here are the most vulnerable ones, those who really, really need help. Without any kind of support, they will not be able to survive. And these are the ones I'm talking to, because these are the ones we as WFP, we really, really focus on. The current data that we have for Kenya, we have about 1 million people who are food insecure. And when you look back, COVID, the impact of COVID to the agricultural sector in Kenya, to the livelihoods of Kenyans, you look again in Kenya, Kenya have just faced one of the worst drought over in the eastern part of the country. And finally, you look at floods. It's also followed by floods. But what are we seeing here in Kenya? In 2022, we have over 4.4 million people who basically, without any sort of assistance, it's difficult, they will go to bed hungry. In 2023, it dropped down to 3.5, and now we're talking about 1 million. But we still have a lot more to do. And the reason is we cannot control disasters anymore. We cannot control those disasters anymore. And how do we ensure people like Mary, they will continue to produce the food that we require? And I think that requires each one of us in this room, everybody, whether you're in the private sector, you're in the public sector, you're in the government, you're a development partner, we all need to work together. And this brings us to this theme. It's the right. It's our life. It's our future. And if it's our future, we need to be bold enough to ensure that no one, especially Kenyans, go to bed hungry.
Okay. Mary, kuna mtaalamu yote ambaye ashakuja kwa shamba yako? Labda kukusaidia kuona afya ya ng'ombe, kuona afya ya chakula yenye umepanda. Kuna mtaalamu yote ashakuja kwa shamba yako?
Sio saisi, imekuwa kitambo.
Kitambo sana.
Sijui watu ya agriculture imekuwa chache kwa Nandi ama namna. Mimi naona ni chache. Lakini mbele nilikuwa nasunguka, lakini saisi sio sana. Labda
sasa ukitafuta, kama unatafuta mafunzo, labda ungependa kujua kuna ugonjwa fulani, ng'ombe wako kuna ugonjwa fulani, ama chakula umepanda mahindi, kuna wadudu hapo, unatafuta wapi hiyo information?
Sasa tukiwa na hiyo shida, sasa kama agriculture, kama ni ofisa agriculture, so unapigia simu ndio aseme tawa ni na hii. Sasa ni challenge, sijui watu ya agriculture imekuwa kidogo kwa Nandi ama ni nini. Tuko na changamoto. Sio kama zamani, saisi imepunguka.
Okay. Afisa wa kilimo kutoka kaunti amekaa hapo na wewe, kwa hivyo amekusikia.
Na AI, unajipata AI kutoka kaunti?
Asija. Sasa AI yenye saa zingine tunatumia labda ni mtu mwenye, sasa siwezi jua kama inatoka kaunti. Sasa iko wenye anasunguka huko. Tuko na namba yao.
Hawa ni wetu.
Ni wenyu. Asante.
Kwa hivyo amefika kwa shamba yako.
Unajua vile mimi nasema, samani ilikuwa natembeanga na pikipiki ama spoken samani agesunguka kwa pile, lakini siku hizi imekuwa tofauti. Ni simu. Lakini samani ilikuwa nasunguka.
Na kuna wakati wote labda umejipata katika ile hali, kumekuwa na ukame, umepoteza mifugo, umepoteza mimea, na inakubidi uchague kama utakula mara moja kwa siku au mara mbili kwa siku au mara yote 3 kwa siku?
Uwezi kula mara 3. Saisi maisha imekuwa ngumu. Saisi chakula sio kama mbele. Sasa mtu utalimit ukula hata mara 2 kwa siku, lakini ingetakikana 3, lakini vile maisha inafanya nini na chakula tena sio kama mbeleni. So unajua saisi watu ni wengi, mashamba sio kama zamani, imekuwa kidogo kidogo. Sasa mpaka mkule mara 2 ndio asubuhi
na jioni. Hapo mchana mjipange.
Mchana sasa hata sinu kwa sola sol kwa maana saisi maisha nuku kutafuta.
Okay, so she said the life today is hard. You can't afford 3 meals a day. So you do 2 at the most. The farms are smaller, the weather is not good, people are many, more people to feed, so you survive with breakfast and dinner, then during the day you figure out what to do. Yeah, so that's the reality that farmers are living in today. And you earlier on you had mentioned technology. And technology is something that particularly smallholder farmers struggle with because the costs, mostly the costs involved with technology. Like for example, when you tell farmers transition out of firewood to green cooking, all green cooking solutions are expensive. How do you ensure affordability of technology for smallholder farmers?
That's a great point. Thank you very much, Mary. And I think it's so, as my panelists have mentioned, it's not everybody wish that people should go hungry every day. And then the importance also in Kenya, also link, there's understand that access to food also link about human development. So it's an issue we are talking about also national security. So if a country needs to move forward, you need to have food, and that's not just food, also quality food. And the quality food is also not determined by just anything, like you said, any access to any kind of technology. It has to be technology that also enhances the productivity and the nutritious aspect of the food, and also make sure that it doesn't damage the environment, because we're looking at it more holistically. So your point that you mentioned is indeed that access to technology is always expensive. So institutions like IFAD, which stand for smallholder farmers in general, make sure that we provide loans in general to government to fund specific technology, to make sure that the technology become more accessible, more cheaper. In one way, some aspect with what we call smart subsidy. You also want to make sure that the access to that technology is subsidized, but not in a way that distorts the market. Because at the end of the day, smart subsidy you use in a way to introduce technology that is not available, that, like you rightly said, the likes of Mary cannot afford. So from her point that the initial investment, which is high, you come in to offset that initial investment. And now we're talking about scale. So the likes of Mary, so Mary alone times, the CEC had mentioned, a registered 6.5 million Kenyan farmers who are farmers. Assuming that you introduce a technology, then 6.5 million people are going to drive down the cost. So we also talk about
the more people,
the more it become cheaper, because then you have reached what economy scale, which become cheaper. So once you become cheaper, it's also provide opportunity for innovation. And once there's also innovation, people improve upon it so that it makes sure that it becomes more easily accessible. And in our case, that we have worked on a project through the government and European Union, we also think that sometimes accessibility also needs to be closer to Mary. We don't want Mary to walk 10 kilometers to access fertilizer or seeds, certified seeds. So we also work with the private sector, largely what we call the agro dealers. And I'm glad even in Nandi here we have a lot of them. And last week, 2 weeks ago, we came here and we launched a project. And basically, using that agro dealers, you make sure you have those technologies available to Mary, that Mary can access and pay through a digital platform, through her mobile phone or M-Pesa. And when Mary goes, as she said, she has a cow. So once she gets to the agro dealer, she can also have a problem with this. It's open up the market for her to see other available technology that she needs to be able to access. And then once she makes sure that she accesses it, it helps her to improve upon whatever she's doing. And whenever she's improving, it means that she can also, once that she has tested it, she can also come out and say, my neighbor, see the difference in the performance of crop. Where did you get this? It's an agro dealer. But the point is that you're able to reach the 6.5 million or more of farmers we need capital. And sometimes the capital, I will try to simplify, is that we have this small, a chapati. So if you have a chapati which the size is fixed, and you want to divide it to 6.5 million people, everybody will get a piece. The only way you can make sure that the likes of Mary, who has 6.5 million to get his meal, to increase the size of that chapati.
Great. So we're going to take a very quick commercial break, and then we'll be back with more on this conversation, and maybe the CEC will be able to tell us how much of the county budget is actually dedicated to agriculture, and if it's in line with the Maputo Declaration, the spirit of the Maputo Declaration. Do not go away. We'll be right back after this break.
Sikia, ni juicy. Flavor zote tamu tena fruity. Are you bored? Kuna vitu Aya, kituka na shika. Yummy na flow kama maji tena fruity. Are you bored? Kuna vitu moja juu ni tamu kama sali. Ni juicy. Flavor zote tamu tena fruity. Are you bored? Kuna vitu zinakuudhi, sijali my bro. Hebu kama taka juicy juu ni juicy. Flavor zote tamu tena fruity. Are you bored? Kuna vitu zinakuudhi, sijali my bro. Hebu kama taka juicy juu ni
Lakini vile hii ekonomi imetufinya, ilinibidi kubadilisha sabuni nikatumia ingine rahisi. Bala, ilibidi nioshe kila kitu mara mbili. Sikuwa na otherwise, nikarudia Ariel.
Ariel, usafi bora kwa mwosho mmoja tu. Deals kibao kila wiki na Carrefour. Enjoy fresh chicken mix at 399 shillings per kg. Apple crisp bread at 249 shillings. Guru special basmati rice 5 kg at 999 shillings. Assorted Orchid Valley Delight 1 liter at 149 shillings. And Mega Fridge at 39,999 shillings. Deals kibao kila wiki na Carrefour.
Welcome back. Now, before we went on break, we were talking about the challenges to access to technology in Africa and even to smallholder farmers. And one of those challenges we've had about funding. So I'd like to go to the CEC of Agriculture of this county to tell us about funding, financing agriculture in this county. What is the percentage of your budget that is dedicated to agriculture, and how does that compare to the commitments we have at a national level, such as the Maputo Declaration?
Thank you. I think last year, our budget actually, for a budget of around 800 million against a total budget of 8 billion, that gives you almost 10%. So meaning we are just not far from the Maputo Declaration. But that is still quite a challenge, because we should be more than that even at the county level, because being an agricultural county like us in Nandi, where our core economic activity here is largely agriculture, because if you look at our GDP here, agriculture should be not less than 70 to 80%, including the industrial contribution, is still agro-based. So really, I think we still need to do more, and we can still unlock much bigger potential if we were to allocate more resources. But of course, you all understand the challenges with devolution. We've always been saying resources should follow function. But unfortunately, resources have not been following function. So we are hoping that resources will follow function soon, so that we are able to realize the full potential of devolution, and ensure also counties like Nandi are able to exploit the untapped opportunities within the sector. Yep.
Now, Hamisi, coming back to you, we are now trying to feed the continent when climate change is a very big problem. Yet agriculture itself contributes to the climate problem through various ways like livestock keeping, farming practices, and whatnot. How are we addressing this when we talk to farmers about food security?
No, thank you. That's a very critical question. And you're right, actually some of the emitters or the emissions that we get really emanate from the practices that we have in agriculture. And this needs to really be addressed. And having said that, I think as FAO, we have really worked around the clock to support the farmers, educate them, capacity build them, to adopt what we call climate smart agriculture. So climate smart agriculture will be undertaking your agricultural practices in a climate smart way, in a manner that does not really contribute into the climate change, but instead supports the mitigation of the climate change. And if you like it also, it will contribute into the adoption. So this is something we've done. Actually, just this week on Tuesday, we were closing a project in West Pokot. It's a project we've done in West Pokot, Laikipia, and Kitui counties, which is called Women Economic Empowerment on Climate Smart Agriculture. And you could see what these women have done by just learning to do what they used to do, but in a climate smart way. That way they've been able to get more with less, but at the same time being very conscious of matters climate and their environment. And that brings me again, when I looked at what the stories of those women, we were with the governor, Kachapin. If we listen to the stories of these women, it brings me to a point that was raised here also, that something like technology, which you asked, may be difficult sometimes for a small scaler to adopt as a person. But how about just picking, like you brought 2, 3, or 5 of them and joined them in one good tank, which then flows water into their kitchen garden. This is something that they now can afford, both of them. If you go to Mozambique, they have done, because of the land subdivision, they are still able to do commercial crops like sugarcane and commercialize those small plots. But what do? They have adopted what is called block farming. These are practices that we could still be able to do here. You look at the sugarcane farming, we have reports that are done by the KESREF, Kenya Sugar Research Foundation. I don't need to even go far, which indicates that doing sugarcane in anything less than 5 acres, you can never break even.
Some people say the same about maize, anything less than 10 acres.
I'll come to maize, just give me a minute. And so, you find that we are here doing sugarcane on 0.2, 0.3. And yet, then we start saying like, oh, we didn't make the profit. But there are these other, considerations that can make people come to do block farming. Simply tells you a commercial crop, you need mechanization to deal with it as you go. Coming to maize that you've talked about, even as we talk about technology, and actually there are 3 points, if you allow me, I want to talk about them very fast. In food production, there is something very important called productivity. And when I talk about that, there are things that government would do that will be those matters of policies that will open the way, ease the way people deal with the food production. But there are also, when you come to farmers, 2 types that you'll find. There are those farmers that are commercialists already. They will do this agriculture, they are conscious of what they put in. They can invest, they have the capital. And then there are farmers like Mary that will still be at a very small scale, a level, and you call that the subsistence. But of the 3 levels that I've talked about, there are things that are on our hands to deal with. For instance, the issue of land subdivision. This is killing us and killing our production. And we have to do something about it. And much as policies may be made, we must also consciously say, I will not be able to divide this land and find something to do or a remedy to that.
That will attach some cultures very...
I know this, Zainab, but look at it this way. We will be attached to the culture till when? That's the question. if we don't change it consciously now, we will reach a situation where we will have to now do it while we are dying.
And there was a bill that actually proposed that, the minimum
Yes,
land acreages bill,
something like that.
that didn't go far.
I'll give you an example. Today, 3 generations ago, your father had 10 acres, gave birth to 5 sons. Each went with 2 acres. So from your father, 1 farmer, farming 10 acres, 5 farmers farming 2 acres. And of the 5 farmers, each of them gave birth to another 2 or 3. And then you end up now with about 20 farmers now farming half an acre or a quarter of an acre. That's what you get in most of the developing world.
So culture is a big impediment.
This is something that we need to deal with.
Okay.
So what is happening today, you come to the developing world, the number of farmers keep increasing, the farm sizes keep decreasing. And therefore that limits our ability to do, even to engage in some of the enterprises. So we need to deal with that particular bit. The other bit we need to deal with, like for instance, and CC will agree with me, we know what happens to our soils today. Here is the breadbasket of Kenya. Wild maize that you talked about should be getting like about 30 acres. 30 bags per acre.
They're getting 10
When you do 10 bags per acre in that maize, how are you going to break even? You're not going to. But the question is why? Look at our soils. The good soils in the highlands, what have we done to them? We pumped a lot of inorganic fertilizers there. The acidities of these soils are really making the nutrients unreachable to the plants. So therefore, the plants don't get what they need.
You know, you're touching a subject that's very close to CEC's
Exactly.
heart. He likes
And
to talk about soil health.
And therefore, we probably have to start looking at the soil health. We have to treat our soils. Even human beings, we've reached a point where we say, don't pump yourself with a lot of drugs and everything, you know, the medicine we take. Let's start eating naturally. Our soils are crying for the same, I'm telling you. They are crying for things like the organic carbon, the organic manure to be put there to start reversing the trends of the cities that we have in the soil.
Yes.
So it's not like we have to keep on pumping the inorganics all the times. So basically, this is something that we need to deal with. And I needed to mention something on the food security, which we have to take. 3 aspects here we must look at. Is our food accessible, available, accessible, and affordable? Those are the 3 tenets that you have when you want to talk about food security.
And those 2 things mean different things for urban communities versus
and the rural communities.
Because urban communities, you can open your fridge.
Exactly, and do that.
Yes.
And here we have seen here in Kenya where this corner people are crying, the other corner people are having milk glut.
Yes.
Just that's now
So
the
moving
issue
the food from one end to
to
another.
the other one. That's a distribution issue. So it's not even like that we don't have it. So these are logistical and the processes issue that we need to deal with. Thank you.
Great. Mary, unatumia mbolea aina gani?
Mi natumia TAP
Ushaitumia mbolea ya
kama hii ya yenye imeingia juzi 20
MPK 23.
23.
Ushaitumia mbolea ya
Hii ya
ng'ombe?
serikali yenye imeingia.
Ushaitumia ya ng'ombe ama kuku? Ushaikulima bila kutumia mbolea?
Huwa labda mboga tu nikipanda mimi napanda na ya kuku.
Kwa hivyo mbolea lazima utumie. Na ukianza kulima ulikuwa na shamba eka ngapi?
Niko na shamba kidogo. Nusu eka. Na vijana wako ushawapatia mashamba? Bado.
Na watu wanataka kugawana hiyo nusu eka?
Lakini sasa tutakawana wapi? Si kutafuamana hapo sasa na mali ya kutafutia tu, mali ya kufumusikia ndio
Now, Sanko, emergency response a lot of times is where you interact with Kenyan communities, particularly the 1 million people you said who are constantly food insecure. And I'd just like to pick on your expertise as somebody who responds to these emergencies all the time. Floods, people are food insecure because of a flood. People are food insecure because of a displacement internally, like intercommunity clashes or whatever. all these years that WFP has been coming in from this crisis end, what lessons are you picking up that Kenya could use to prevent this food crisis from happening?
No, thanks. That's an excellent question. I mean, first, it's very, very clear that the national government and local government take responsibility of responding to these emergencies when they occur. In the case of Kenya, we only come in when the government and the counties are overstretched. That's the time we come in. But over the years, what we've learned is that when we come in, we cannot work independently. We have to build on government systems. We have to respond. And areas where in the government systems are not strong enough, we have to work with them to strengthen those systems in place. When you look at some programs that we started years back with the government of Kenya, we were leading those programs. But as we speak right now, like the school feeding program, it's actually managed and funded by the government of Kenya.
Isn't WFP pulling out of that program?
We are not basically pulling out. What we're trying to do is we're taking a strategic shift. We are moving from being implementers to enablers. And that's a big shift. When we're moving in, we used to go out there, do things on our own, and they're not sustainable. Now, what we are doing is, how do we support the government? How do we enable the government? How do we ensure that the government of Kenya has policies that are in place that can respond to the changing dynamics that are happening in Kenya? A typical example, we have worked with the government of Kenya and some counties in developing their food security and nutrition policies. And we're now working together with them to see how we can actually implement the policy itself. And for us, that's a strategic change. The second area is basically on disaster risk preparedness. Over the years, we have been working with counties. I think almost every county now does have a disaster risk management in place. The implication that is, counties are able to respond, they're able to prepare, they're able to mitigate. However, we still have that in paper. Some counties are way ahead, and others are midway. And I think what we are doing now as WFP, working together with the government to see how can we ensure that all these counties are at the same level. And I think that's where we want to go. With regards to these emergencies, I think we just need to be very frank and honest on this. They will come. But it's about how our food systems can respond to them when they come. How can we mitigate them? Or when they come, how can we rebuild back? And that's what we as WFP, we're working together with the government to ensure that the systems they have, we have to strengthen them. Their social protection programs. How do we ensure that when there's a disaster, we can build on the social protection program to reach more people? But once the disaster fails out, we need to come back and focus on the development component.
Dr. Kiplimo, why can't we move food from Nandi to Turkana?
That's a valid concern that I think if you look at generally the challenge with areas of food surplus and deficit, some are infrastructural, but some even could be issues of trade barriers that we've just created on our own. And I think we are putting in some effort between counties to make sure that we remove the cess and remove also the multiple taxations that occur from county to county. And I think this will ease the movement of food. The other thing, of course, about information asymmetry, when probably the trading points are not really able to have a clear feedback mechanism so that you're able to even send the price signals and all that. But for me, I would want to say that sometimes it's not just about the food availability, and as there's also an aspect of quality. In fact, we have a group of women here who have been supported by a World Food Program, and they were selling their maize. And when the maize arrived in Turkana, it was confiscated because of aflatoxin. So that's another challenge that we're also facing, and we're trying to address that. And this is a huge challenge in terms of post-harvest losses that farmers face today. So if we was to support farmers, we must support the entire value chain, not just at the farm level, but even up to the market, to make sure that if it's cold chain for the fresh produce, if it's the storage facilities, we have now the warehouse receipt system that should work for farmers, especially when you're looking at smallholder farmers. And for us as a county in Nandi here, we are now trying to support the farmer producer organizations, the cooperatives, because that is the only sure way where a smallholder farmer with now low volumes can come together among the other farmers to aggregate sufficient volumes to even leverage the market opportunities that are there. Otherwise, a single farmer going to the market, the market, of course, inefficiencies is not in favor of the farmer, and they are likely to lose and get discouraged from going that direction. Another thing that probably I'll want to mention, and in regard to what he said, is about, somebody asked me, why is there high milk consumption, for example, in Kenya, as opposed to some other countries in Africa?
Because you get it fresh, unlike some countries in Africa.
So you'd want to look at the history. And Hamisi probably grew up down here in Nyanza, but they used to eat a lot of omena. But interestingly, because of the Nyayo milk, they started actually, almost every Kenyan right now take milk. And if you look at it back, it was because of the government program that we used to have. It was there, the Nyayo milk. Yes. Today it has transited into even the adults in Kenya are consuming more milk per capita compared to other African countries. If you've worked in West Africa or South Africa, adults don't even take milk. But here we take milk. If we are taking tea, we take tea with milk, even coffee with milk. And I think that is what we need to revisit also with regard to the nutritional challenges that our children are having today. Because of the protein.
Take a quick break, but I just need to ask you quickly. You heard her say that her farm is less than an acre.
Yes.
What is the average size of the farm that the farmers in this county are working on?
I think here between 2 and 3 acres. But it has been shrinking, and I think it's a challenge in terms of land fragmentation. Some years back, it was between 3 and 5. But of course, in the past, when we could even access every farmer, it was about 10 maybe to 20 acres. So you can imagine, if Nandi we are now, yet we're the bread basket, the land now is becoming an issue. Of course, there are some sub-counties that still have much bigger sizes, but it's an issue that is affecting everyone. And I think sometimes we are also encouraging the youth to go into agriculture, but I sometimes say we need to be careful. Don't also force every youth to be just a farmer. They need to participate along the value chain. We need industrialists. We need people who can innovate and give us value addition. We can fit into the global value chains and produce even for export products, so that we don't need to crowd all ourselves at the production level. We need to fit within opportunities along the value chain.
You would like to say something?
Yeah,
on that?
no, I would just like to comment on that. I like what my colleague from the CEC said, and we've been having this long discussion in terms of, should the discussion in Africa be about increasing acreages or land, or should it be about proper inputs? And that discussion, it's ongoing. In some countries, it's really about land, availability, huge chunks of land. In some countries, I think, especially in the case of Kenya, I think focusing on input, quality seeds, the right skills, the right technology. I've gone to a lot of farms, and when they have the right seeds, they have the right information. They know when to plant, when not to plant, what kind of manure you require. The productivity and the yield really, really increase. So while we were really pushing for availability of land, we also has to do a joint approach to ensure that the inputs that they receive actually be the game changers.
And that's a good point to take another commercial break. When we come back now, we'll get into the final thoughts, maybe to see what we've all learned from this conversation or what we want to take away from this conversation and what this means for the future of farming in Kenya as we pursue the right to food. We'll be right back after this break.
My name is Elias Kemboi Chelimo, a champion 2022 Nairobi Standard Chartered. I will be competing on this year edition. Watch NTV Live.
The 2024 RAIDS Association of Kenya Conference is here from October 30th to November 1st in Naivasha. This year's event is set to explore the theme Navigating New Frontiers, Unlocking the Potential of Africa's Rate Market. Join thought leaders, investors, and real estate experts as they delve into new opportunities in real estate investment, share groundbreaking insights, and foster collaboration for Africa's growing rates sector. Register today and be part of this influential gathering. Visit rak.co.ke.
Usiachwe nyuma. Join us at the Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon. Register by visiting www.nairobimarathon.com and help us move Kenya forward. Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon. Run. Embrace possibility.
Deals kibao kila wiki na Carrefour. Enjoy fresh chicken mix at 399 shillings per kg. Apple crisp bread at 249 shillings. Guru special basmati rice 5 kg at 999 shillings. Assorted Orchid Valley Delight 1 liter at 149 shillings. And Maker fridge at 39,999 shillings. Deals kibao kila wiki na Carrefour.
This is the comfort of a mom's hug. Nahi ni Morph expands comfort that feels just like a mom's hug. Babies play around and then oops, Morphix ina absorb like whoop. Imagine haiwezi leak in 50 different movements. Makofi to both babies and Morphix. Renewed Morphix, ultimate quality.
Morphix is renewed. Improved Morphix quality, now in blue package.
This is NTV.
Tonight.
Tunasikia hiyo pain. Next time hatujui ni nani, ni mimi ama wengine wetu.
Hii mambo ya watu kushikwa na kupotea, rais wetu alitupromise itaisha. Na bado saa hii tunaona imerudi.
Security agencies on the spot. Protests in Eastleigh over triple murders as fears linger that the case will go cold. Also tonight.
We do not want to burden the people of Kenya with either additional taxes or additional loans, when the private sector can do it much more efficiently.
PPPs it is. President Ruto defends deals with the Adani Group as a solution to the hefty national debt and tax burden. But at what cost? Plus,
there is a very close relationship between one of your lordships, the Honorable Judge Nurima, and the Speaker of the Senate.
No. Hold on. Your Honors, if he's saying nonsense, they'll stand up and say so. But this constant interruption is intended to derail this hearing.
3 days of no substantive proceedings in the Rigathi Gachagua impeachment case. Bench beset by bias claims retires to write a second ruling on a petition for its recusal. And
tuliposikia duru tukateremka na huko chini, tukakuta mtoto amekuliwa na mnyama ambaye hatukujua.
Mauled by a jackal, marauding wild canine inflicts serious injuries on 2 minors and a 50-year-old in Kiharu, Murang'a County.
Usiachwe nyuma. Join us at the Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon. Register by visiting www.nairobimarathon.com and help us move Kenya forward. Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon. Run. Embrace possibility.
Welcome back. Now, if you're just joining us, we're in Nandi County in Kapsabet, which is hosting the World Food Day, and the theme this year is Right to Food. And we've had a very fantastic discussion about what are the challenges that Kenyans are facing when it comes to this issue of right to food. So now the question that's left to be answered is, what next? Where do we go from here? And I'd just like you to take maybe a minute or two to tell us your perspective. What do you think is next for us?
Yeah, so what next is extremely important. I mean, the facts are there. So there's been serious underfunding in smallholder agriculture, and also climate financing is also an issue that we have to take into account. IFA did a study together with the Climate Policy Initiative, and what they found was that of all the climate financing that have been going to developing countries, less than 2% went to smallholder farmers. And during our discussion, we talk about farmers adapting to the effect of climate change. And if you want to make sure that the smallholder farmers we have in Africa and even in Kenya to adapt fully, scale, then we need to make sure that we also direct climate financing to help them boost their production and productivity. And the last point is that we're talking about access to food. In Kenya, every Kenyan annually wastes about 99 kg of food. 99 kg, and the value of that is about 72 billion Kenyan shillings.
This wastage is happening on the plates?
Everywhere. Food waste and lost. Everything that we eat. So by the virtue of just changing consumer behavior, we can have a lot of savings. And that savings, as Mary here, who toils a lot to produce that food that she produces, that you and I are eating, we don't waste it. And that becomes a value that is lost annually, which also contributes to the environmental waste. And when I did the calculation, it means that every Kenyan, you throw away about 1,300 bob a year from food waste. And that's saving that we can also turn into.
And in this economy, that's a lot of money.
Absolutely. That you can turn into in terms of investment. Yes. We're talking about no resources. So there's opportunity, there's tremendous resources. What now we need champions. We need to change our attitude and make sure that we sustain and help the likes of Mary to continue to be determined, wake up in the morning to produce, to feed that, knowing that it will not go to waste.
Hamisi, do you think there's really intention to want to fix the food systems if we are not really putting the resources in there? We know we have this declaration, the Maputo Declaration. We all signed up to it. We committed 10% of our budgets, but kwa ground, like Kenyans say, kwa ground vitu ni different. Can you really say we are committed to fixing our food systems?
Thank you, Zainab. I think we are. Yeah, there are very deliberate and consistent efforts which I can really talk about, starting with the national government, coming down to the county government. The only thing I think maybe probably in some instances we need to work on our pace because the challenges that are facing this sector are really not waiting. So they are running faster. And I'll start by telling you there are so many vibrant policies at the national level. In the sector, the agriculture sector development, growth and development strategy is just there that is guiding the sector. It talks about 9 thematic areas, which are very clear flagships that shows what needs to be done. Coming down to the counties, most of the counties, I think they have always adopted actually what has been at the national level, and they put resources in agriculture. What is important is that for us to fix the issue of food and nutrition security, we must get an integrated approach. We must get an integrated, all these factors must come together so that we're not just pursuing one line of action. In this World Food Day in Nandi is going to be memorable because one of the things aligned for launch here is FAO's supported development of post-harvest handling strategy, which after some analysis that had showed that in Kenya here we lose 30% of what we produce post-harvest loss. that you have not come to what you have lost on the farm and everything.
Has that figure been updated? We've been saying the same 30% over
Yeah,
the
because
years.
I think we've been so consistent with this loss.
So consistent.
We've been so consistent with this. It may be more, actually. But this is what the research shows and the analysis, and that is what we probably quote. But the good thing now is we have a strategy that is telling us what to do about this. The other thing that is supposed to be launched in this particular World Food Day is the data governance, which is going to handle what the government boldly did, which is the data for farmers, farmer registration. Kenya has become the only country now to have registered farmers to that massive scale. It takes resources, it takes deliberate effort, and we're so proud as FAO that we supported it. Here in Nandi, we did the same. What next after that farmer registration is the most critical stage for me, because this is what now we have lined up to work with the counties on what we are calling now transactional data, because we now want innovative ways of passing services innovatively to the farmers, make it easier for them. That is what we'll even bring, what we were discussing earlier about technology. Want to know the farmers. And let me just tell you, on a transactional data, you will know the farmer. If we know you consistently, Zainab, that you are producing these bags of maize and you're giving it to us for this time, you can use that information to even walk to a bank and get a loan. Because there is something that speaks about you.
Even though farming is considered risky.
This is one of the things that will de-risk that farming, if there is information. Because there is no information, it's even more risky and more exposed. So one of the things that we're using is this, and help in what is in access to the finance. You get the point? So these are the things that we are working on, like in FAO. We're working together with the government to be able to achieve and support the farmers. So yes, there are a lot of deliberate effort that are going into this. But as we say that, the challenges are also many and numerous. And climate change, this is my last point, is turning out to be one of the biggest, challenge that agriculture is facing. And as we have also said, it's also one of the contributors to climate change. So we are faced here with a two-pronged danger, which we have to have a two-pronged approach to it. We have to deal with it, and we have to also produce food. And this is the space of the climate-smart agriculture. We have to adopt it. So one of the ways we have to do this is creating awareness, sustainable awareness. We have to talk to people, engage people in the days like the World Food Day, the farmer field schools, farmer field days, and the likes, so that people get to pass the information. Through the projects and programs as well, we have to be consistent with this type of conversation. Thank you.
Dr. Kiplimo, earlier I met a farmer who was telling me about the challenges he had. He's a young guy. The challenges he had when he learned about farming and how to do sustainable agriculture. He tried to teach his father this. And his father was like, I've fed you your life, your entire life. This same farming that you're right now, in Kiswahili we say unadharau, is what has fed you your entire life. What do you think you're telling me now? What is it you think you can teach me now? So these generational differences, the younger generation is quicker to absorb the technologies, quicker to learn new things, quicker to, all that kind of thing. But the older generation, our parents' generation, they're still like, I've done this thing this way my whole life. Even if I get 10 bags an acre, I'm good. Why do I need to change anything? How are you addressing this in your county?
Thank you. I think agriculture sector generally is undergoing a lot of transformation, not only in Nandi, but we are lucky in Nandi because we have a good number of partners that are working with us now, and more youth even are picking up on this. And one critical area that I'm very excited about is regenerative agriculture. Projects that are there now, and we're looking at opportunities in turning around the soil health. As an you don't need to be farming much bigger size of land to be able to get the same production. So if you have 1 acre and you're able to get 30 bags, instead of doing 5 acres where you're getting 5 bags per acre, you need to pay attention to that soil health, because over time, of course, our fathers before have used conventional agriculture production. The soil is degraded. We have a lot of practices that are no longer sustainable for us. And I think the young people are the ones who are able to really make connection between the science and the practice. And that way, if they borrow the best technologies that are now being adopted across the globe, you are able to turn around the agriculture. So I think I still have a lot of hope, especially in our youth who are venturing into a lot of innovative approaches to manage production, productivity. Amidst the climate change, there are a lot of opportunities to even turn around agriculture production and have more opportunities. And I would remind you, last month we were with the team from IFAD and Solidaridad supported us. We've now, for the first time in Nandi, our farmers are able to appreciate what is carbon credit. Yeah, this is something they didn't know. We are now supporting them to produce biochar, to be able to turn around the soil, recarbonate the soil, and you're able to still produce more from the same soil. If it's coffee, you know, it's in line with even what the consumers now in the global market are looking for. And I think it's quite exciting that even amidst all these climate change issues that are coming up and other challenges, we are able to still see opportunities that we can rely on. Yep.
Okay, so you in your county you have no challenges with young people who are trying to tell their parents you need to change how you farm, and they're not changing.
I think because everybody now is trying to, as I've said, the challenge of land fragmentation is real here in Nandi. And therefore, everybody has to look for an opportunity. And I can tell you, I have a farmer who adopted some of these best technologies, and the immediate neighboring farmer has not. And somebody was telling me, why is the maize in this farm more dark and green as opposed to the nearby farmer? And we were just trying to compare. And so the other farmer will say, okay, I want to do something that is similar to my neighboring farmer. And if you look at that, the other farmer was actually a youth, while the other one was an old person. I was saying, how much did you get per acre? So I think with the youth being able to adopt, of course, the adults shouldn't be a problem, because also they are looking for a solution. And I think, as Hamisi was saying, with land fragmentation, you reach a point where you now have to think, how can I work on the same piece of land that I have to produce more? Because already, like Mary was saying, whatever she's producing probably can last for 4 months or 5 months. The rest of the months of the year you have to buy. Yet it's still possible to do proper soil management and still produce more from the same piece of land. Yeah.
Okay. Mary, ni nini ungependa wakulima wengine wajifunze kutoka kwako?
Mina pia wajikase kufuga ng'ombe na ukulima kama mboga. Tena mimi naomba serikali washike mkono farmers wadogo kama mimi. Ndio kwa maana maisha ni ngumu. Na watu ya agriculture, mimi naomba serikali wasitu kuongeza watu ndio wapige huko Masenani, kwa maana huko iko challenges. Hata mtu kupanda, unajua wizara ya kilimo nataka waonyeshwe inapanda hivi, pengine utaweza panda mahindi ikuwe mingi ikose kusaa. Sasa nataka waone vile wataongeza watu ndio wapikie huko ndio tupate chakula. Unajua mtu peke yake bila kuongeza elimu ni shida. Sasa saiti kwa sisi tunaona serikali ametufinya, kwa maana kama tupate maofisa ya agriculture sio maisha ni ngumu.
Na wewe uko miongoni wa wale wakulima ambao wamejisajili na county? Uko registered? Umesajiliwa?
Bado.
Ulipata mbolea mwaka huu?
Nilipata. Haya.
Lakini Mary, unaona kuna mtaalamu hapa kutoka county na yeye utaalamu wake ni wa afya ya udongo. Kwa hivyo labda tukitoka hapa mtakaa chini pamoja mkunywe chai, ajue vile atakusaidia na ajue vile atafika kwa aweze kusaidia. Lakini labda kama unaweza kuniambia mbio mbio, kuna watoto wako ambao wanataka kujiunga na kilimo?
Hata yuko moja amemaliza agriculture na hajabarikiwa. Bado hajapata laini.
Ameapply ile tuli-advertise jana.
Ali apply. Iko yenye mulia.
Yes. Yes.
Wacha nitauliza yeye.
Unaona umekaa mahali pazuri kabisa. Umekaa mahali pazuri kabisa kwa sababu ndio huyo mtu wa county anakujibu maswali yako yote. Lakini vizuri kuona kwa kuna watoto wako ambao wanataka kilimo, kusoma kilimo na kufanya kilimo, kwa sababu watoto wengi wanaona kilimo ni kazi ambayo ni chafu na ni kazi ya watu maskini.
Sasa imekuwa mzuri kwa maana tuko na yeye ndio aonyeshe laini, huyu aingie ndani ndio asaidie Nandi hapa ama nje ya Nandi.
Na ushawahi kupima udongo yako?
Bado.
Kwa hivyo hujui kama udongo iko na acid ama hapana?
Pengine uko na acid. Unajua hii mbolea ni acid kwa inataka ipimwe ndio ijulikane kani inashikana na hata sio yangu kwa watu wote wanataka usaidizi kwa maana unaona saisi na nyuma saisi imekuwa tofauti, lakini nyuma huko chakula ilikuwa nafanya vizuri, lakini saisi iko chini.
Zain upon that, the agripreneurs that we are recruiting actually will be also, in fact, their first assignment will be to do soil testing. And this we are doing in support of FAO and a World Bank project we are implementing. So this youth will be able to, part of assessing the farmer situation will be to also test the soil that the farmer has. And remember the agripreneur, all the youth, and I'll tell the youth.
This is on-farm testing or it has to go to a lab?
Even at the farm, of course, we have some technologies that you can have instant resource, but some you have to do wet testing where you have to go to the lab. But I would say this, the young people who are now graduates or they are even still in school, they should not worry that there are no employment, because the approach we're using, being an agripreneur, will incubate that young person for 1 year. After that, they're supposed to be now independent, meaning we'll recruit somebody else. And this is a program we'll be doing every year, because they're supposed to be with us for 12 months. Once they know what they're supposed to do, we now recruit another cohort of young people to work with us. Yeah.
Sanko, are there foolproof strategies to get more young people involved in farming?
I will not even hesitate to say yes. There are so many. And I can give you a typical example. For the last 2 years, we are working with youths across the country. As I speak right now, we have 21,000 youths that we've engaged in different agricultural activities across the country. But the most important thing, what we have learned, is that they need mentorship. You cannot just come and invest in the youths, provide inputs, and you let them go. It does not work like that.
This mentorship, are they to get it from the older generation farmers or from experts?
It's going to be a mix from our own experience currently. And the reason why I said it's going to be a mix is that there are still some local solutions, in the sense that when you look at local varieties that are available, these local varieties are also resilient to drought, and they are also disease. And that's wherein we need to have that mix. At the same time, our grandfathers are also farmers. By us bringing them together, hearing from them, having this open discussion, because that's what we're doing. We go out, we sit with the communities, sit with the young and the old, and we're able to discuss slowly and slowly. And based on that, we're able to come up with solutions to move in. And that's why it has to be a mix of everything in the basket. But the most important thing is this: what will give us the highest yield? And that's what we need to basically focus on. If I could just take this opportunity also to talk a little bit about smallholder farmers. We as WFP believe that the game changer for Africa is on the smallholder farmers. If we invest in the smallholder farmers, not just halfway, but from the beginning to the end, we will have a dent and change the food security situation in Africa and also in Kenya.
Great. So,
Can I just put a point which I think I will not do justice if we get out of this place with it. With the, policies, the pilot projects, the attempts around, one thing that curtails investment in agriculture is the resources. One area that is still not fairly tapped around this area is the private sector. And I want to call on all the initiatives that we are doing, even from the development partners, government, is to ease the environment that attracts private sector investment in agriculture. And that investment should be take a value chain approach. They can invest at the production, at the processing, at whatever level that they want to invest. So let it be something that we must be thinking about on how to attract private sector investment in agriculture. That would really help and bolster the 10% you're talking about. Thank you.
I see all of you want to say something on December. We really need to be wrapping up. Okay, so I'll give you a minute and I'll give you a minute.
No, just to build on that point, I think it's critical getting the private sector involved. And then what IFAD does, there are two aspects linked to that. So we also have a kind of a facility that we directly invest in agri-SMEs to bring it to be a pull factor, because then they can also help farmers like the like of Mary to also produce for the market, because there's market to look at it. And then we'll talk about value chain financing. And what we also do with value chain financing, sometimes we also have to capitalize rural financial institutions, the SACCOs that Mary belongs to, so that they have the capital at that lower level for Mary, depending on her needs, depending on her interests, she can go there, or even the youth can go there and be able to access capital, which is much cheaper, and that we provide through what we call credit guarantee scheme, that if I has a project with the National Treasury to be able to make sure that we make sure the capital goes to the rural areas to support them in the business development.
My last ask is on the media. We need the media to be part of this journey. We need to tell the stories. And we can, those who can tell the stories, it's the media. I have gone around, we have met with a lot of farmers. I was in Isolo 3 weeks ago. I met a farmer who basically owned a farmer service center. He started as farmer service center on 15,000 shillings. Today, 2 years down the line, he worth over 200 to 300 Kenyan shillings. And he's not only selling inputs, but he is providing extension service for free to people like Mary. And in return, people like Mary will come and buy input from his own store. And he does his farming. Those are stories, those are game changers that we need to tell the world, we need to tell people so that they know that you can actually invest in agriculture.
Okay. Dr. Kiplimo, your parting shot in a minute.
Thank you so much, Zainab. And I'll take this opportunity to say that for our farmers in Nandi, tomorrow is our D-Day. We've been having farmers from yesterday, today. Tomorrow is the main and the big day. So I want to welcome each and every farmer to visit us, and not only in Nandi, we have our neighbors, neighboring counties, Uasin Gishu, Kericho, Kisumu, Trans Nzoia, Bungoma, Kakamega, just nearby here, Vihiga, Siaya, and all our neighbors. If you are a farmer, tomorrow, please find time to be in Kaimosi. You'll learn a lot, you'll interact with a lot of farmers, and you'll be able to see what we've prepared for you as we celebrate this day of the World Food Day. Thank you so much, and we appreciate our partners who have supported us and worked with us to make sure that the day or the days that we've had this week in this county have become a success. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you. Hamisi, I'll give you the last of your parting shots.
Right to food for better life, leaving no one behind. That means we need to carry everyone in this vehicle. Welcome to the World Food Day tomorrow.
As simple as that. Right to food for better life. Well, I'd like to thank you for making time to join this discussion. Talking about food is always a subject that's very close to my heart, because I'm just from neighboring Kakamega County, and we are known to be people who love to eat. So whenever there's a conversation about food, you can bet we'll be there. Okay. We'll be there. So thank you very much for making time to join this discussion. I'd like to thank you, Moses Abkari, for making time. Hamisi Williams from FAO, thank you. CEC Kiplimo, thank you for welcoming us to your county. It's very cold here, but
there's plenty of tea.
There's plenty of tea.
Sure,
good.
Tea.
Just what we like to hear. Plenty of tea. Thank you for welcoming us. Mary, asante sana kwa kutuambia masaibu yako, na pia I hope utapata usaidizi hapa kutoka kwa CEC. Tukitoka hapa ndo pia tusiende alafu tuambie baadaye hakukupigia simu ama hakukuja kukutembelea. And last but not least, Mr. Sanko from WFP, thank you all of you for making time for joining us tonight. And of course, the conversations about food are conversations that are not just happening here in Kenya, are happening globally. World Food Day happens every 16th of October around the world to talk about, to take a stock take on where the world is at on ending hunger and zero hunger, as it says on Sustainable Development Goal number 2. So I'd like to also challenge you, our viewer. What steps are you taking to ensure your food security? Are you wasting the food you eat? Do you pay attention to how much that food you waste comes to at the end of the year? I hope you do. And I hope you think about the farmer who has fed you every time you eat. Thank a farmer. And I'd like to bid you good night. My name is Zena Bondati.
Kwa majina naitwa Ronald Kemele Korkat. Ninashiriki Standard Chartered hii mwaka on 27. Naomba watu wa watch live on NTV.
This is the comfort of a mom's hug. Na hii ni Molfix Pants Comfort that feels just like a mom's hug. Babies play around and then, oops, Molfix absorb like whoop. Imagine, haiwezi leak in 50 different movements. Makofi to both babies and Molfix. Renewed Molfix, ultimate quality.
Molfix is renewed. Improved Molfix quality, now in blue package.
Deals kibao kila wiki na Carrefour. Enjoy fresh chicken mix at 399 shillings per kg. Apple crisp bread at 249 shillings. Guru special basmati rice 5 kg at 999 shillings. Assorted Orchid Valley Delight 1 liter at 149 shillings. And Maker fridge at 39,999 shillings. Deals kibao kila wiki na Carrefour.
This is NTV.